Hello again, it's Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network, taking you into the garage and talking to the folks that make the race cars go around the racetrack. We are so glad you joined us. If you like what we're doing on Crew Call, subscribe to MRN, like, share this show. We would be grateful for that. We love talking to our folks in the garage, that is for sure. I'm Steve Post, pit road reporter for Motor Racing Network, joined by 25-time and championship-winning crew chief Todd Gordon. Hello, Todd. How are you?
I'm great.
Fantastic.
Great. I'm absolutely fabulous because we're going to the round of 8, and I don't have to figure out how to get through it with Talladega in the middle of it.
Exactly. You are you're going to be an analyst for
Yes.
MRN and various other entities, and not a crew chief calling the shots.
Yes.
Crazy stuff. It really, truly is. As crazy as things get, one thing is constant. Since COTA, we've gone to a road course, and SVG has picked up the win. This is truly special watching what we're seeing here with SVG.
Yeah, he's just at a whole nother level, and we should celebrate that. And I think most of us do, because not only is he at another level, but he's so humble about it. Such a great guy. But to see him, he's just, his ability to run a car long. On tires, and I want to throw out a kudos to Goodyear for bringing a tire to the Roval that we had to decide whether we were going to pit for 20 lap stages.
I know. That was crazy.
It was great.
Yeah, it was. Really, truly
was.
was.
And we saw some guys opportunity. Ryan Preece stage 2 went long till he short pitted and kind of, you saved a set. You had to think about where you were going to be. At the end, we were right up against the last set. I think Goodyear's done a great job, but by bringing a tire that when you abuse, you pay a penalty, it just makes SVG look awesome, because he knows how to manage his tires so well. And it's, I think we should celebrate it. I think every driver out there is frustrated by it, but it will force them to make their games better. And we saw a couple of them do it.
There was a couple getting close there. I go back to Mexico City. I had interviews with Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott, who finished second and third, and they both said, he just ran me out of tires.
Yes.
He just ran me out of tires. And that's really the skill set that SVG has, is running people out of tires.
The one at Mexico City that I thought had the best shot at hanging with him was Ty Gibbs.
Right.
And we've seen different guys. The Gibbs cars have done it. I really like the fact that we got to see Christopher Bell.
I agree with us.
And Kyle Larson mix it up with him. Now, on the long runs, SVG still has, he's still the teacher and they're the students.
Yeah.
But we got to see, Kyle Larson and him, Larson doing Kyle Larson things. He looked like he was back.
But we haven't, is Kyle Larson back? It was the first top 5 finish in 9 races for Kyle Larson. And it seemed like Kyle Larson being Kyle Larson.
I love the fact that, and I didn't feel like SVG really kind of got too hard into the 5 car down there in turn 7.
Yeah.
I felt like he kind of massaged him just a little bit. Kyle Larson wasn't going to have any part of it.
I like that.
I like the fact that he just doored him, banged him, went back by him, actually shuffled him back to the point the 20 car went by him. So I like that.
I like the racing they had between them, because it's like, all right, we're even. Let's go back to business.
Yep.
I just thought that the dynamic, and I almost felt like at one moment it's like, wait a minute, Bell and Larson are kind of double teaming on him, and really it's
Which
like
they should be doing,
they
right?
should be doing exactly.
When you got a bully in the field, it might take more than one of you. He's done such a good job.
Yeah,
and his oval racing is progressing.
10th place at Kansas. Top 10.
I just think that this is really cool, and it's cool to see an outsider come in and really force the rest of this field to elevate their game, and that's what they've done. Is road course racing? Everybody's got work to do,
right?
Because there's a whole nother level. Now, there's a kid that won a race on Saturday that I think might be at that level with him next year.
Yes, absolutely. When we went to the Roval, if you had to pick the favorites, you have Corey Heim in the truck, Connor Zilic in Xfinity, and SVG in Cup. They all 3 won. And Connor Zilic is special, and it is going to be fun to watch him race.
What's Trackhouse going to be like? Because you stack both those guys in one organization.
Man, oh man.
That's going to be interesting to see how the two of them push each other and push themselves forward.
Really, truly is. Let's go back to Friday. Lap number 1.
Turn number 1.
Corey Heim is in the fence with a dinged up race car.
Yeah, not his fault.
Not his fault. No, not at all.
Looked like Grant Enfinger was trying to make a dive to the bottom.
Grant took credit for it. Just acknowledged.
Just one of those situations. He didn't anticipate Lane Riggs checking up like he did, which is probably what Lane needed to do, but Grant mistimed that, hooked Lane into Corey. And Corey had significant right front damage.
Yeah, he did.
I got to talk to Scott Zipadelli Monday night on late shift. Upper control arm perch was bent. The steering arm was bent. The fender was caved in. Oh, by the way, we fixed all that. Well, they didn't fix the camber piece, but they got the toe back right, and they came back and won the race.
We celebrate Corey Heim, and we should. I mean, what he's doing is amazing, but that is a whole team effort.
Yeah, it is.
Well, we were talking about it in the tower, and it was like, well, who's going to do what in the trucks and that sort of thing. I said, well, I want to know who's paired with Scott Zipadelli before I know who's going to do what in the truck series, because Corey is great. There's no doubt about it. Scott Zipadelli is on top of his game as well.
He does. He does a really good job. And he just focused on performance and doing the things he needs to do. Corey's talent allows him to do that. Scott doesn't really have to worry about Corey. He can let Corey do the Corey things, and Scott can do the Scott things. And 6 wins, 2 third places in the last 8 races.
Holy cow! That's
10
amazing.
wins, first time a 10-win 10-win season in the truck series, eclipsing Greg Biffle's record from 1999, I think it was.
Yep, 99.
It's impressive what they've done, and I mean they should be odds-on favorite at all 3 races coming up.
Yep. We'll see what happens with it. There you go. Going to be fun. That is for sure. We are going to roll into the round of 8 in the NASCAR Cup Series. 3 teams left standing.
Yep.
We're going to talk to a competition director. Our game plan is competition directors the next 3 weeks. We got 2 of them lined up, working on the 3rd one. So we're going to go to Team Penske today. We're going to talk to Travis Geisler. We'll talk to Travis Geisler here next on Crew Call.
The NASCAR channel is available now on Tubi. Tell them we got it. 24/7 news, documentaries, with access to the exclusive NASCAR Vault. The NASCAR channel, always on, always free, only on Tubi.
Welcome back. It is Crew Call, and let's get right into it. Team Penske is where we're going, up in Mooresville, North Carolina. Joining us now is the competition director, Travis Geisler. Hello, Travis. How are you?
Good morning. Doing well, thank you. You are?
We are well. Travis, what were the last few laps of that Roval like?
Remember Richmond, Todd?
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do.
That's still stuck in your brain a little bit?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was pretty much, that's kind of the feelings there. Just, it's so much stress. You get the whole season kind of hanging in the balance, and you're counting points, trying to figure out who's on tires, who's coming forward, who's fading back, where is it all going to end up, watching people's paces, can they catch them? It's just, man, it was brutal, and I know, for the one car, I feel as well, it's in that situation, it's really not, one of you has to be disappointed and go home, with their championship hopes kind of done for another season, but it's such a hard-fought battle. You really hate to see it. Either guy have to go home from that, but that's the way it goes. That's what the playoffs create. They make the drama. They make those kind of storylines that are just the crucible of the playoffs continues to kind of just heat up as we go, and that round gets pretty hot, and now it's about white hot from here.
Yeah. So to me, this round looks much like 2024. Ryan Blaney threw decently. Joey squeaking through. Stress on that one, not knowing where it is. How's it line up for you?
Yeah, I would say, certainly the win with Ryan was huge for the whole company. When you could take a deep breath there and, not only you got the win, but now we're going in with some playoff points in the 12 car, which has really been our weakness, really through all these playoff runs in the next gen era. We just have not had the stack up of bonus points that the other guys have been able to get. And, that 12 team has really been marching along, and now they're going in 2 points out of the lead, 6 above the cut line. We just haven't been in this kind of a position with that car, really with any of our cars recently. So feels good, but it's still, there's a lot of cars stacked right there with that kind of point count. So it's still really tight, and that Talladega's out there kind of lurking. That's really the one that's it's just kind of the beast that everybody knows is going to reach up and grab somebody. Nobody knows who, but I feel like we have good speed at all 3 of these tracks. I don't think that's the biggest concern. It's really just, can we execute 3 really good races?
How does Talladega moving to the round of 8 change how you approach Vegas and Martinsville? Does it at all, or how does that work out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it pushes them closer to feeling like must wins no matter where you are. You know, even with a point advantage on the cut line right now, it's not enough to feel any kind of comfort that the swings that can happen at Talladega point wise. The stages can get pretty mixed up. The race finish, like I said, somebody is going to not finish well there that is a great car, and I think that's the thing that you can't recover from. So you almost have to chart in one bad race for this thing for both of your cars, because the likelihood is you're probably going to have one bad one. And when you have one bad one in the final round here of 8, you're going to have to win one of the races. And certainly the 22 is closer to that mindset, just where they are in points. That's kind of the way they have to approach it already. But even the guys that seem to be pretty safe right now, there's nobody safe with that track in the mix.
You mentioned the 22 car. I marvel at Paul Wolfe. If there's anybody that you want to have a pair of dice in his hand and get ready to go, and we're going to Vegas, by the way, are there times when you even sit back and say, man, this guy's intestinal fortitude, or whatever you want to call it, really make him clutch? What's that like to kind of oversee a guy like Paul that can pull off stunts like he has over the past time?
Yeah, I mean, I guess first a correction. There's not really overseeing. There's working with. That's really how this whole thing works.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
The guys that I get to work with, it really is incredible from all aspects. Everybody has their thing that you're just kind of in awe of. And certainly each of the crew chiefs have that kind of ability. They have some skill or trait that makes them really stand out and be, one of the best at one of the toughest jobs, in racing. So. Sitting on the box there, listening to the conversation, kind of the discussion around where we were. I think, honestly, the speed that the 22 had was so weak as the run went on that there really wasn't a lot of option. I think it certainly was a gutsy call. It was one that had to be made. It was a difficult call. But when you really, when he sat there and was asking to go through each of the numbers, and you're looking at fall off traces and where we are, going that long on tires just was, it just didn't even look like an option for us. And, when you watch the one car, who was a much faster car, really struggle that late in a run, we knew we were going to be in big trouble. So it was a great call. I think Joey's the other side of that group there that just is unflappable under pressure. I mean, yes. He's calculating, he's figuring out where he needs to be, he's figuring out his aggression level, he's recognizing what he can take in his own hands and then what's out of his control. And I think he makes sure that everything he can control is as perfect as it can be, and the rest of it is going to be what it is. And I think, anytime Joey Logano is in the playoffs, you're going to have to beat him. He's not going to beat himself. Yeah. And I think that's the situation there, where the one team just didn't beat Joey or the 22 team. They so it goes.
Yeah. Joey, I would say probably one of the most mentally engaged racers that there is out there over the years I work with him. You brought a little bit of this, but your 3 teams have different makeups. Talk about how they push each other.
Yeah, it's certainly a different dynamic for all those groups. You've got kind of the veteran there who's been there, done it all. Joey's kind of won championships in all different formats and in all different fashions. I think he's done it where he was just blindingly fast, passing Truex on the outside at Homestead as a pass I'll never forget. Like, that was just an epic moment in racing, in my opinion.
Me either.
I figured you'd remember that one. But he's also gone and fuel mileage his way in last year at Vegas, just squeaking through, as he said, and then gets to Phoenix and he just lights the candle and goes, and he's the fastest car in short runs there and makes it happen. So I think that group is just the established. They've been there, they've done it, they don't get too worked up. I think Paul is certainly one of the best racers that's done the job. I think he's great at taking technical input, but also just kind of adding in over 15 years, almost 20 years of crew chief experience. He's the most winning active crew chief for a reason. He's just been there and done it all. Jonathan is certainly the most technical guy that has done it for us in a while. He's he's got an approach that's unique, but I think he and Paul have actually started to really complement each other in a good way. I think Todd can definitely, remember kind of how that worked, as being more of a technical crew chief versus, Paul, who's a lot more of a racer. The mix is really healthy for us right now. And I think that certainly when you look at the drivers, Ryan and Joey, they're about as different as the crew chiefs are in how they go about getting things done. Both of them really do get it done, and they have to respect each other because they are able to really make it happen, but in different ways. So they push each other. I think Ryan's got the pure speed usually, and Joey's execution is perfect usually.
Yes.
So the two of them have had to elevate on both those sides. And then, Austin and Brian, I think, have added in a nice mix of kind of fresh, trying some new things, making some different moves. I think they bounce around a little between teams on who they kind of gravitate towards at times, but it's been great. Brian worked for Paul as a race engineer, so obviously there's a great relationship there. Jonathan and Brian were race engineers together, so just all that chemistry, just kind of continues to work, and that really extends on into the 21 team, where Miles has kind of served a lot of those roles for us as well, and just has a great relationship and is able to, bring Josh into the fold, who's got some great takes on things and is fresh to our system. So I think he's been able to kind of look at things and just ask, well, why are we doing it that way? It's like, well, we've been doing it that way a while, but let's look at why. And I think that's been healthy for us too.
Fascinating stuff. It really, truly is in the crew chief room in there and the driver room as well. As we look at going into this round, the 2 car and the 21 car, what roles can they have helping the other 2 cars in the playoffs, and what can't they do because they've got their own programs to do? How do you balance that, Travis?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly, a big part of how we try to race here is to give every team 100% of a chance to go and be successful. We don't try to stack decks and you see that at some companies where you have one team that's just this super team that has everybody on it that's their best. I think we try to spread that out here to keep 4 even teams. And I think when you look back at, our cars all making the playoffs last year, all of them making it this year, guys having wins with all the car numbers, it starts to show that that's real. So those guys are certainly still on their agendas. They still have a lot of racing left in front of them to try to make sure that they are 100% prepared for 26. But certainly anything we can learn, the air pressure has been a big topic this year. I think you've seen, plenty of issues along the way, and that aggression meter on that one, those guys got to help us with. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I think when you have an opportunity and those guys are in the first round of practice, that changes the game a good bit too. During the playoffs with all of our cars in that second round, you really don't get that read on, hey, what's the balance? Where are we now? Lights here, but I'm still going. So we'll give you the ghost Halloween view of this one. But yeah, it's, a situation where those guys are certainly going to be willing and going to need to help us a little bit if we have questions. But really having them in that first group is for this week, it's unfortunate for the 2, but for our other guys, it really is a benefit.
Yeah, totally. Hadn't thought about that way, but it totally makes sense. So, and we talk about this. We've raced the remaining tracks that are left on the schedule. We've had them spring races, but you go to Vegas with a different tire. I think the tire we had at Kansas, and you guys had tire issues in practice there. How does the tire change there and the tire change at Phoenix? I know we ran it as an option, but it being, how do you adapt to those pieces?
Yeah, the tire game this year has just been, it's been the storyline really for our preparation. The car has remained relatively stable. The rules package is pretty stable. You're always still evolving and iterating your setups, but honestly, the tire has been a huge curveball at times. You look at this past weekend, if anybody said that their sim lap time was correct when they unloaded, I'd like to know, because I think the whole industry was pretty far off. And then the fall off was pretty incredible as well. So, sometimes you get those curveballs, and those are the things that really those are what make the teams, earn their money. But I think having a little experience with it at Kansas, obviously you found some limits there. We've got to be a lot smarter when we get to Vegas. You can't afford to have any of those situations. Even just starting in the back and not getting your stage points the first stage or two just puts you in such a hole that you can't deal with the way it is right now. So, got to be a little more conservative, got to be a little bit smarter about the decisions you're making there. And, really the tire prep thing is, it's it. Where you want to be on pressures and cambers is such a huge part of the game right now.
Yeah, because you've got a common car. And where it comes to with this Gen 7 car, that kind of leads me into one thing I wanted to ask. Common parts, you've got common center section, common clips. Are there still favorite parts? And what separates that for the listener out there? Because I know where we're at, but we're not talking about inches or quarter inches. We're talking about thousandths in places, aren't we?
Yeah, for sure. Favorite cars. Don't really. The next one that can go win. That's it. Honestly, we don't even keep up with car numbers. We used to really know car numbers.
Yep.
It's chassis 71 this week, or it's whatever. Now, I honestly couldn't even tell you sometimes within the hundreds of what chassis center section we're running. It just doesn't really matter when it comes to the centers and really the clips, but. What you are doing is starting to sort for what's important for you for that weekend. And that comes down to, the most important part of this car is travel. Mm-hmm. So what gets you to travel? What are those? And you're talking just such small numbers that it sometimes is not even really hardly worth talking about, but you're trying to stack every possible thing you can. So if you get one, there's a really tight tolerance on weight, but if you get one that's a little bit lighter, you try to put the light one maybe, for a place where weight's going to matter a little more. I mean, it's, we used to be able to make huge swings when we went to different tracks on what we were weight wise, and now it might be single digits if you're really lucky. But that's, if everything is the same, a small difference is still a big difference percentage wise, because there's really no difference. I think that's the mindset shift of next gen racing that we've all had to go to is the tape measure isn't really that important anymore. It's really the ferro arm that you're down to, that level of accuracy. So it's not eighths and sixteenths. It's stuff you can't really see. You need micrometers and ferros to ferret it out now.
Absolutely amazing. That is for sure. Well, Travis, we do appreciate your time joining us here. We're hoping to get the light situation fixed up there we've got.
It's a Halloween vibe.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we appreciate the time. I can't wait to see what you have in Vegas this week, and we wish you well.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Have a great morning.
Travis Geisler, competition director up at Team Penske. Stay with us. More crew call in just a moment.
3, 2, 1. Start your engine.
The NASCAR channel is streaming now, exclusively on Tubi.
Tell them we got it.
Go deeper into NASCAR with 24/7 news, documentaries, and explore the vault of timeless NASCAR stories and unforgettable races. From crushing defeats to the thrill of victory.
Go, baby!
The NASCAR channel, always on, always free. Only on Tubi.
Welcome back. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Todd Gordon and Steve Post. And sounds like some construction up at Team Penske has caused the lights to go out. Hopefully they get them fired back up and it doesn't impact.
It's a great October theme, though.
Yeah, it was.
To kind of
really
go
cool.
to that ghost looks like it made me think about trick or treating at that point.
It really does.
I love what Travis. I mean, I obviously worked for him for 10 years. I think the world of him.
You didn't work for him. You worked with him.
Yeah.
He corrected me on that.
And I like the fact that he thinks that way, but he was ultimately my boss. But yes, he was great to work with. I think he's one of the best leaders out there. I just think he does such a good job, and he's a major part of the glue that keeps Team Penske, because you've got guys that are different ways. And they could separate, the very technical Jonathan Hassler and the very racer Paul Wolf could go different ways, but they don't. They stay together. Great culture up there at Team Penske.
A lot of complimenting each other, complementary activity up there. Yep. That is for sure. Las Vegas crew chief, we're going out there, the round of 8 for the Cup Series, round of 8 for the Xfinity Series as well. What are you looking at in Las Vegas this weekend?
Execution.
Yes.
As we talked about. And if you look back, I was looking back to the spring race, because now we have the 4 races we have left, we've already raced at this year.
Right.
But you go back to the spring race. Fastest car, I think, in the spring race, and nobody will realize this, was the 12 car.
That's right.
But he blew a tire and had to go to a backup car, started at the back, drove forward, had an issue, drove forward, got in a wreck. Like, he got too anxious, it seemed like to me, and got himself in a bad position and didn't end up. But we had Hendrick cars had a ton of speed, but all had issues at times. Like, it seemed like we had execution challenges. So I'm not saying that Hendrick as a whole, but there wasn't one guy that just went up there and ran top 5 all day long.
Yeah.
They found themselves in different places, and we've got a new tire. And a tire that, when we had it at Kansas, was a lot slower and a lot less grip than people anticipated.
Boy, that threw everybody off in qualifying. I remember talking to Chase Briscoe, who won the pole, and it was just like everything we planned on is out the window.
Yes. So you've at least got that data point to kind of lead you to where you're going to Vegas. 75 and sunny. I think Vegas bumps on the. Travis talked about, getting the things lower and what you can do, but how hard do you run through the bumps? And that could be how much you abuse the tire, because the lower groove at 1 and 2 is very bumpy. Now, a groove up, not so bumpy. So where you run your lanes dictate how aggressive you are on being lower. I think it's a great race.
Going to be fascinating. It really, truly is, to see who sets themselves up, and then, Talladega and Martinsville.
Oof.
So it is going to be awesome, that is for sure. Going to be a fun weekend out in Las Vegas. Performance Racing Network has all of the coverage. We'll pick it up and take it to the end of the year, Talladega, Martinsville, and Phoenix. So we do have weekly shows here, NASCAR Live, our Tuesday night tradition, NASCAR Live Wide Open. Our podcast edition drops on Thursday, NASCAR Coast to Coast, where Chris Wilner talks to all the stars of the roots of NASCAR, Wing Nation, talking sprint cars, and of course, Crew Call. And again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, if you like what we're doing here on Motor Racing Network, subscribe to this channel. So, going to be a fun weekend, that is for sure. He's Todd Gordon. I'm Steve Post. Thanks for joining us this time here on Crew Call on the Motor Racing Network.